This is the solution to the world's first 3D printed drum kit. Welcome to K&S Creators Collective. My name is Scott. I'm here with Bernie Solo.
Hi.
Now you might know Bernie from his Instagram page or his YouTube channel, Works by Solo, but also maybe you've been out to a maker event like Maker Camp or Fab Tech or Workbench Con. Do you have a personal favorite?
Oh, it's Maker Camp for sure.
So we are at your lovely home, and you have a nice shop that you probably want to show us some things with, right?
Yeah, sure. Come on in.
Do it.
First of all, I'm going to show you around the shop, but I wanted you to know that a lot of people think that I actually have like a shop, like a big shop. And
It is a shop.
I have a garage. It's my garage, okay? So,
Yeah.
And I like vintage tools over new tools. And I kind of got the bug after, you know, meeting Jimmy and seeing all the stuff that he's, you know, his old tools and stuff like that.
What a guy.
And the thing is like they're solid, you know, they're never going to be like not useful,
right?
Because they're maintainable and you can all the stuff. Anyway, this is the latest acquisition right here.
This right here.
This is an actual vintage Kurt vise. Kurt is the brand of professionals for vices, and I got it at Maker Camp. I bought it off the back of a pickup truck. This is one of the latest acquisitions as well. It's a 1947 South Bend 9-inch lathe. It's in beautiful condition. I bought it off a guy about an hour from here. This is another Maker Camp acquisition.
Okay, so I feel like there's an ongoing bandsaw collection thing going on. We did it with Chris Zepp. We did it with Graz. Jimmy has but you're collecting bandsaws yourself.
It's a secret society thing. Jimmy DiResta has an unofficial go-kart meetup 4th of July weekend.
Yep.
This is the first time that we did this, and what was really great about it was that it became a father-son project, and it was really good for me, good for our family to be able to you know, get into this. Now I got to tell you, we did not build this from scratch because we've never done anything like this before. I'm just learning to weld. My son's just learning to weld. So what we did was we went on Facebook Marketplace, found an old go-kart that a guy had, 125 bucks. He said it didn't run. It was in his backyard for 2 years out in the rain and everything. And we went and got it, and we needed to do a few mechanical things to it. And the motor was full of water.
Well, you're the motor master.
Drain the water out. Yeah, and my son Tyler actually, he worked on it and he got it started up. That was a lot of fun, and if it wasn't snowing outside, we could take it for a ride. But
you shouted out Ameribraid a little bit off camera, so now you get to talk about them on camera.
So this is a new acquisition for me too. This machine it's primarily focused toward knife makers or bladesmiths.
Yeah.
And kind of set up that way, but it's a very versatile metalworking machine for doing all kinds of different work with metal. It's not just for knives. I mean, it's very popular with knife makers. So also the Instagram post where I'm working on the little K&S brass tubing.
Yeah.
I used the
I would say you did use
small
this.
Wheel attachment.
That was to go in your motor that you were making, right?
Yeah, so I used the small wheels. You have to take it apart, put it back together, you know, as far as changing the attachments.
There you go. Now this I've seen a video on, and I feel like maybe now that's not the time, but later on you can show us how this works.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
This is my zombie apocalypse defense weapon.
It looks like it works.
Okay. There was a contest back in 2019, just before Halloween. The idea was it was put on by a blacksmith, and he said there was 2 requirements. The first one was you can make anything you want, but part of it had to be forged, blacksmith style, forged. Okay. And once you finished it, you had to demolish a pumpkin. Maybe after it gets dark, we can.
That would be a smart idea.
Effect. This is a crash cart from a medical facility that was being thrown out. So I made it into my grinder station. This is a vintage Gitzo tripod, which back when I used to work at the photo studios, the guys always had these big Gitzo tripods. And so when I am, shooting something like this, if I'm working like this, I take, because I'm by myself. Well, you watched all my YouTube videos, right?
I would say all of them.
So now we're getting to the higher technology here. What's all this pile of stuff I got on the table?
I don't know.
Is this supposed to be here in the video?
Does
Is
that
this supposed to be in the
say
video?
K&S? I don't know.
So what I was using this stuff for that I purchased was for some experimental laser cut pieces that I was going to do for that.
For that motor, right?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that later.
Now, I know we talked a little bit about this off camera, but there's something that you wanted to kind of show us as a demonstration that's a current project you are helping somebody with.
Yeah.
We're down this way, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right,
Check it out. Come on down here. I got to get my apron on here. Gotta get my apron on here. But this is a South Bend 9-inch C lathe, 1936, and it's still going strong, and it makes very precise parts still. It's belt driven. Like this has got a motor and a back drive, basically a motor drive on the back of it. I fitted this with a collet chuck now. There was a collet system available back in 1936 for this, but it needs a lot of extra parts and they're kind of hard to come by these days. So this project is for Dan Polovich. He is touring right now. He's touring with a 3D printed drum kit.
It's insane. As a musician, from my understanding, there's none other than in existence.
Yeah,
this is the first of its kind.
Yeah, apparently it's the first to go on tour, and it's actually performing well. The plastic itself doesn't really hold threaded parts very well. There are specific inserts that are made for plastic parts that need to have durable threads. In fact, you might even have like a phone holder or something like that might be molded in plastic, but it's got a little brass threaded insert in it. Now that's either molded in or it's put in after the part is.
So the inserts aren't necessarily 3D printed.
No.
But that's where your lathe comes into this. But the inserts aren't 3D printed, but it's going into everything else that's 3D printed and it needs this.
Yeah. From what Dan told me, he was thinking about going to a commercial supplier and buying these inserts. Well, he found out that only drum tension rods are 1224 in 2022, the year we're living in, right? And so when he went to find them, the suppliers didn't have them.
Oh my goodness.
And he talked to a couple of suppliers that said, well, we can make them for you, but he had to buy a
large quantity.
Thousands of them. He only needed enough for a drum kit right now. So then he went on a search to find somebody. Ended up with me. The very first thing to start with is a piece of K&S brass.
It's cool that we're somehow involved in this story, at some point in time when it comes to it too.
Yeah, it's 3/8 diameter, and it's exactly the size I needed for those inserts. Okay, so not only did I have to make a custom knurling tool, I had to make a form tool that was custom cut so that it would put the cuts after I did the knurling into the brass. And that is one move. When that tool comes in, it cuts those grooves, and that's the finished contour of the insert.
Wow.
This one right here is a commercially available 3D printed heat insert. The inside, if you notice, one's bigger on the inside.
Yeah.
This is a 1/4-20 thread. This is a 12/24 thread.
And this one's yours.
Yes.
On the left there.
So what my task was to make a part that was as similar to the outside of this one as possible, but when I bored the inside and threaded it, it had to be 12/24 threads.
And I think what I love about this whole thing is, like, out of all the people, you find yourself into this scenario to be the solution for the first ever 3D printed drum kit. Like, that's mind-blowing, I think. It's like, this has never existed, to our knowledge, anywhere else, and he's coming to you to finish off something he needs to get this done.
All in all, I think I only made not quite 120, somewhere between 100 and 120 parts for him to do.
Well, better to go through you and have a smaller quantity and have the solution than pay for a bunch of stuff you didn't need.
For additional content on the collaboration between Bernie Solo, SJC Drums, and Dan Pavlovich, please check out the link in the description of the Instagram post that features this. With Bernie's background in commercial photography, we also wanted to know a little bit more about his approach to content creation, as he is a content creator himself.
So before I kind of go into the content that you create, I'm curious to know what content do you consume and what inspires you. Feel free to shout out somebody, or just, what do you like seeing when you open up Instagram or YouTube?
I guess it's a little bit of a mixture, because I always like to check up on my people I consider my friends and see what they're doing, because it's always something.
Exactly.
And also, to let them know that, well, we all know that engagement is, important, and to go on and make a comment of some sort, whether, try to be funny or just compliment them. And if it's, you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all, right? Probably dig into people that I don't know personally that have a lot to offer, and they're sharing, something that they did, or a specific skill, things like that. I probably target the stuff that I'm focusing on at the moment.
So a lot of what you like to consume is what you're focusing on with your classes right now, with welding. How brand new is that for you, that you're doing? Have you welded anything prior to recently?
No, not really. I had an old hand-me-down welder, a MIG welder, that never did work properly. And I started to meet some welders, professional welders, and I heard this probably from at least 3 people. They said, sorry to let you know, but the only way you're going to really know what you're doing is if you have a piece of equipment, a welding machine, that's reliable, and it's going to be able to do what you want it to do. So when things aren't working right, it's you, not the machine. And if you have a broken machine, and so it was like, sorry, but it's going to cost money. And for a beginner, that's not what a beginner wants to hear. A beginner wants to hear oh, you can kind of ease into it, and then once you get better, then you can upgrade. No. Yeah. You need a quality piece of equipment to start with.
I think what's charming about your content is the fact that when something doesn't always work out, you're still filming it and talking about it. And it's a loaded question a little bit here, because I see the need in that, but why do you feel that's important to kind of see the struggle?
Honestly, I go kind of both ways on that one, because sometimes I will, in the circular saw and the CNC video, I did show that fail in there, probably because it was epic and I did catch it on camera.
Yeah.
And then other times I don't, because I kind of move forward. But I got to say, as a viewer, as a consumer of content, there's one person that I follow consistently, which is Quinn Dunkey. Her channel is called Blondie Hacks, and she's a hobby machinist, and she consistently shows her fails on there, and I learn a lot from it. And I think that I may start doing more of that because of her honesty with that stuff happening, and it's a learning experience, not just to show it, but she tells how she gets past it then. It's
relatable, because I think a few of the others so far that we've talked to have kind of talked about that. Graz mentioned that he had a video where he had a mistake and kept it in there. He's like, I don't want people to make the same mistake I made, so I brought this thing up. And he's like, sure enough, it's a common thing that happens. And then I think Chris Zepp also said the same thing as well.
If you're trying to fake something, it's not like you're watching a soap opera, on network television.
You can usually tell if you're faking it. Yeah,
exactly.
You are manufacturing your own products and different projects. Would you be willing to show us some of those things?
Yeah, come on, let's go.
Absolutely. All right, well, lead the way, and then let's go check them out.
All right.
From what you can see here, Bernie showcased various different products, like his lamp builds, a fidget spinner, as well as a motor kit that was impressively put together. You can find them all on his YouTube channel, linked in the description. Finally, to wrap up our video, we traveled to the local Ace Hardware in Michigan to check up on our K&S rack. As you know from our last video with Joe Findes, K&S and Ace have a long-standing relationship, and we figured it'd be a nice theme to continue on with heading to the Ace store.
Well, I love about the brick and mortar, even for my generation, I love being able to actually pick up something and be like, I could do this. Maybe I could do. I don't get that with online. There's no inspiration there, but it's I walk by hey, that's cool. that's a cool thing. Maybe I could do that with that.
Throughout our video, we have referred back to the maker community in many different conversations. With Bernie being a big mentor of the community, we wanted to know what was the most rewarding aspect of sharing his knowledge. But the thought-provoking content we were looking for did not come from Bernie himself. It actually came from his son Tyler, who traveled with us and can also be found at many different maker events. Here's what he had to say.
I think part of it is if you're not passing on your knowledge, what's the point?
I love that.
What's even the point? Like, if you're not going to teach someone else to do it, because then your knowledge, you die, your knowledge is lost. It's gone.
Well,
I mean, depending on what you believe in, I guess. But, like, gone.
That's some
It's
philosophical.
it's almost like you writing a book, but that book is a person. And that person's going to carry on what you learned and use yours and add on to it.
So once again, thank you so much for watching this video. You can find Bernie on Works by Solo on Instagram.
Yeah, actually, I was fortunate enough to get Works by Solo on every platform.
Worksbysolo.com
You
as
can
well.
find it, the .com, yep.
Oh my gosh, zombies, what are we gonna do?